How would you spend $10,000 in Whiteout Survival? Well, I can tell you can spend all of it in gear and charms. I'm not even joking. You can spend almost all of it in charms and gear. That's pretty crazy, but you can. The other place you can spend a lot of it is in heroes and hero gear, aka essence stones. That's where the other money sink is. So if you want to know where all the money sinks are, that's where some of the money sinks are. The next money sink is, believe it or not, beasts, the pets. That's the next money sink. And the more obvious, not so obvious, is the fire crystals, okay? There's a money sink in fire crystals too. And then, I mean, devil's in the details, right? But having to upgrade, do the furnace upgrades and leveling them up, there's a lot of speed ups involved. And yeah, you don't have to spend, but, it's one of those things that naturally, it's a money sink, more or less, if you want to get there quickly. Not obvious, but more obvious than not is actually the troop production in this game. Producing troops is a money sink in and of itself, and the healing of said troops is also a money sink in and of itself. It's the more traditional money sink, as I like to put it. So, ultimately, with that said, where do you invest that money? Where do I get most bang for my buck? Now, this is a hotly topic that I think you can go in any number of directions, right? You could invest your time and energy into heroes in the arena. So that is to say, you could invest into heroes that are ultimately going to give you the most benefit, like Natalia, Molly. I've seen people, they dump into Alonzo when Gen 2 comes along, and that's mostly because their benefit in arena. Geronimo being a big sell, but his life lives outside of arena. But his biggest problem is you can't really get him maxed out until you get to VIP 12. And VIP 12, oh, did I forget to mention? Yeah, that's the other gigantic money sink that almost no one gets to touch unless you were willing to spend more than 10,000 and you want to triple it. Uh, or willing to play a long time. Pick your poison, right? But in the world of money sinks and things that I think you can get the most bang for your buck on, I think that you really, if anything, your overtime value is going to be in your hero's mastery forging of said gear, because that's going to live on regardless of what generation of hero you have, so that pays dividends over time. And if you want to be advantageous in arena, that is a terribly helpful thing. So for the health and lethality stat, that is generally speaking what you do. But that is not the only place that I would invest my time and energy in. It's a less obvious but pretty important factor is research. I think a lot of people kind of ignore this, but starting out, this is kind of where you get most of your core stats. And this is where a lot of time ought to be spent getting research speed, getting training speed, because this is where you're going to save a lot of money and a lot of time. Obviously, going through the economy tree if you want to get faster gathering, but for most people, it's growth in battle. And if you're free to play, it's economy. But for most pay-to-win players, it's battle and growth. Okay? Outside of that, what else do you invest your time and energy into? Really ultimately becomes a question of what are you doing. Are you leading and sending rallies? Then the command center's typically a focus. And then you're also having to nail down chief gear. As far as spending goes, the money sink is the design plans and eventually something called Amber. You don't get that until later on. But the money sink is there in the design plans and then the polishing solution. The hardened alloys aren't as bad. The charms themselves are pretty much the charm designs being the most expensive money sink, but then you've got the guides, and the guides are a little easier in my opinion. The designs are the ones where you'll see serious money sink. So when an opportunity presents itself to get designs, I would recommend getting them free to play or spend any other way, right? Now, again, going back into the, if you look here at the top right, there's obviously 11. And you can see that's 3 charms at 11 at 55%. Comparing that, right, now to a gear enhancement, which can go all the way up to tier 2 3-star, okay, at 85%. But that's 55% per gear piece. That adds up. That adds up a lot. right? That's 55% 3 times. So as you might imagine, charms are a stupid amount, but that is where almost a large chunk of your major pay-to-win players are going to be spending their monies in those charms. Now, outside of that, that is really about all I could say as far as spending goes, because that's mostly where the money sinks are. Obviously, as you progress in the game, you'll eventually get access to Fire Crystal Age after I think like 70 to 80 days into the game. And again, you'll eventually have different events. Like right now, the Christmas event is going on, but I only digress on this because I feel as though some people kind of wonder what direction to go in and whether or not it's worth your money and time. I'm of the opinion that unless you're willing to spend an upwards of tens of thousands of dollars, and I mean tens of thousands of dollars, then you're probably not going to find that it's going to be all that enjoyable to be trying to fight other whales. You're going to lose. It's literally a guy who has probably 500,000 and has nothing better to do with his time. If you're free to play, do you invest your time into this game compared to other games? I am of the opinion this game is a lot more free to play friendly in the first 30 days than most games in this genre. And really, it doesn't take a lot as a free to play than to basically follow behind the guy that spends, join the guilds that spend a lot, and just milk off all the rewards and all the benefits that come along with it. Honestly, most free-to-play players that I've run into enjoy the game, and it's mostly in part because you can just basically piggyback off of the spenders. And that's really what they do. And so in a lot of ways, it's avoiding conflicts that really help the free-to-play more than anything. Having second accounts and having farms are kind of a big thing. I'm of the opinion that if anything, you just want to strive for one thing only, and that's gathering almost all the time, like clockwork, and doing events and saving, because these are all things that are ultimately going to make you have the best experience possible. But needless to say, that is pretty much what I would do if I was going to spend. Basically go into charms and hero gear. I think really fundamentally your chief gear and stuff would be a big chunk of it, but ultimately my pathway was really simple. I just basically focused on doing essence stones and then charms, because I feel like those are the two areas where you get the most value. So you can basically rank these up to 5 and then stop, and then turn around and get these up to 4 or 5 and stop. And then you've got a pretty balanced budget there, and you're pretty well rounded. And compared to most players and your peers, you'll probably be a lot farther, better off. But the expense is obviously going to be a few $1,000s, but it's not tens of thousands of dollars. And actually, everyone else is going, money, 100, 10, 5, $1. You would spend that kind of money? Why? And to those people, I know, shocker, there are people that actually spend that kind of money on mobile games, just as much as there are kids playing Fortnite spending money on cosmetics. What a world we live in. And boy, is that bad? I don't know. It says a lot about the industry as a whole, doesn't it? Well, anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I taught you a thing or two and gave you some food for thought. And I'll see you guys next time.